the days are long, but the years are short. I feel like that statement applies now looking back to my experience, especially as a junior and senior student that's in the traveling didactic phase of the program.
Welcome to the Awakened Anesthetist podcast. I'm your host, Mary Roberts. I'm a certified anesthesiologist assistant living and working outside of Kansas City, Missouri. I created this podcast to give CAAs across the nation a place to come together and awaken to our profession's unique ability to create a life by design rather than default. That process can start by simply listening and engaging with this podcast. By doing so, you're already changing what's possible for CAAs, for you, for me, for all of us. I'm so thankful you're here. Let's jump into this episode and see what we can do together. Hello, all my fellow CAAs, CAA students, and anesthesia colleagues. I am your host, Mary Jean, and welcome to our process series. This process episode is meant to expand your collective understanding of what a CAA can be and do, and move us all in the direction of creating our own life by design rather than default. I love these episodes because they use the power of storytelling and sharing more of ourselves to show us all what can be possible. So let's start this interview, like all things medical, with a quick timeout. Today, we are hearing from Maggie Munn. Maggie is a 2014 graduate of the UMKC MSA program. She currently practices anesthesia full-time, which is a 40 to 50-hour week, including call at a large teaching hospital in Kansas City. She recently accepted a part-time faculty position with the UMKC MSA program, which I am dying to hear more about. And she had her first child not too long ago and is navigating the impact of that on her life and her career. Maggie's process episode is going to be hugely expansive to any CAAs who are navigating their career shift after becoming parents, any anesthetists who are trying to design their own interpretation of work-life balance, and any CAA students who one day hope to become educators. So welcome, Maggie, to the Awakened Anesthetist.
Thank you so much, Mary. I'm very happy to be here. I've never done anything like this before, and I'm still floored that I have something to say that people want to hear.
I totally think you have something to say. I think we all have stories that are really impactful for this community. So I thank you for meeting me at 8:33 on a Saturday morning.
Thank you. Before we really get started, I just wanted to take a moment to dedicate this episode and our conversation to Caleb Hopkins. As many of you know, he passed away suddenly on September 10th last weekend and leaves behind a wife and two small children. He was a wonderful CAA, a wonderful educator, wonderful husband and father, and he will be greatly missed. So this conversation I'd like to dedicate to him.
Thank you, Maggie, for doing that. I want to keep Caleb in our hearts and minds with this episode as well. We both worked with him and, we're alongside him while he was learning and teaching both of us. So I appreciate you doing that.
Yes.
The first question that I like to ask everyone to get the conversation started and to kind of place who you are in time and space is for you to tell us about your cultural upbringing and your background.
Yes. So I come from a large family. I'm the oldest of 6 children, and I grew up in New York State, not the city. Everybody always assumes the city is actually upstate, Finger Lakes kind of area. I'm from a very small town called Elmira, but the closest large city would be either Buffalo or Rochester. So that's what I usually say for reference. I was homeschooled until I was in 9th grade. I went to public school in 9th grade for 2 years, and then we moved to Missouri for my dad's job. And I was in private school in Lee Summit, Missouri, for the remaining 2 years of high school. And I had a great childhood. My mom stayed home with us. Thank God, because we were an unruly bunch of kids. I loved growing up with a bunch of kids. We were never bored, and we always had someone to play with. And I would never want 6 kids for myself, just because I am not as patient as my mother. But I loved growing up in that environment, especially with all of us being homeschooled. my mom was very hands-on. So she made learning fun. It wasn't just let's sit at the table and open our workbooks. We went on field trips. We did sketches. She just made learning so much fun. And I think because we were able to be at home together all the time and learn together. So I think we have a special ability as siblings and just as people to connect in ways that some people may not now, especially with today's day and age.
Yeah, I know so much more about homeschooling now after the pandemic. I think everyone does. And full disclosure, I had Maggie as a student. So I remember you telling me that you were homeschooled. And I was like, oh, I didn't know anything about that life, really. And I just thought, oh, I wonder how she was prepared for college and for graduate school. I didn't realize that you did end up going to, mainstream schools in high school. And so I had some questions based on your homeschooling, but I don't even think I need them anymore answered because it sounds like you were really well prepared, and it was more of a help than a hindrance in any way, which was my bias going in. Like, oh, I wonder what that felt like.
Absolutely. I think it definitely helped me. This is going to sound very braggy, and I don't mean for it to, but academically, my mom would say, hey, here's what you have to get done this year. And if I wanted to do extra science or extra math, I could be done with the entire year's math in 2 months or 4 months instead of dragging it out. And there was a required reading list. So we read hundreds of books every school year. And I love reading now. And I think that is a direct result of how much my mom encouraged us to read and to learn. She taught us how you have to be a self-starter, when she's homeschooling and, there's 6 children at home. If 4 of them are in school and learning all at different levels, and my 2 youngest sisters are very, very close in age, 15 months apart. And so when, you have little kids, you don't always have the teacher right there ready to help you because she's trying to breastfeed the baby and cook dinner and help your 4th grade sister. So we really had to be problem solvers and self-starters and really self-motivated. That helped me do well in high school. I was 3rd in my class, which granted, there was only 37 kids, but still, like I do have to caveat that. I felt very prepared for college. For graduates, graduate school is a different beast anyway. So I wouldn't say it wasn't challenging. But I definitely felt like I could keep up, and I had the organizational skills and the study skills and the drive to really do well in that level of educational program.
Did your mom or just your family culture push you guys into postgraduate or to, undergraduate education? Like, tell us a little bit about your choice to go to UMKC for undergraduate.
Yeah, so like I have mentioned, my family's very close. I wanted to be close to home, and I'm a homebody anyway. That's just my personality. Whether or not I was homeschooled, I think that's how it would be. We lived in Lee Summit at the time when I was in high school, and UMKC is just a 30-minute drive from there. I wanted to go close to home, and honestly, I think it was pretty cheap. I had a few scholarships, and I think it just worked well for my family at the time. I would say I grew up in a family where college is the expectation, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. That's just kind of how it was. And so I always knew that I was going to go to undergrad. The post-grad studies, I think, came about because I decided that I wanted to pursue some kind of medicine. And that's just kind of what you have to do with anything in medicine, whether you're a physician, a nurse, a phlebotomist, a perfusionist, what have you.
And what careers were you considering? What did you know was available to you when you were an undergraduate to pursue, medicine in general?
So and this is backstory, this ties in, I promise. So there are 6 kids in my family. The youngest is adopted. She's adopted from Russia. So number 5 out of 6 was my mother's last biological pregnancy and birth. She was born in 2001. And at the time, there were not as strict of rules in terms of video, filming, that kind of thing. And so the OBGYN actually let my grandmother come and stand with me and hold me up to the window so I could watch her C-section. And I wasn't in the OR, but I was right outside watching through the window. And I was, 2001. I was 11 at the time.
Oh, wow.
And so I remember it. I know. I just gave away my age. I don't vividly remember it, but I remember the feeling that I had when I was there watching. And I was like, oh my gosh. I don't think I knew this at the time, but I think what I was feeling was a sense of purpose in terms of medicine and making a difference in that way. And ever since then, I thought I wanted to be an OBGYN just because of that experience. I felt like it resonated with me, even though at 11 years old, I wouldn't describe it that way because I was just like, I'm feeling this thing and it's so cool and wonderful. What is it?
Yeah.
So my mom suggested a couple other areas of medicine, and she did mention anesthesia because my parents had known some people that were involved in anesthesia, I believe on the physician side of things. And she said, they make good money. Seem like they have a good lifestyle. They still get to be involved in surgery. Like, you should look into this. So then I went into undergrad thinking med school, OBGYN or anesthesia. And then when I didn't get into medical school, I actually heard about the MSA program from a fellow classmate, an undergrad at UMKC. And he is now actually a CAA as well.
Oh my goodness.
In St. Louis, yes. He and I were in undergrad together, and we were actually resident assistants, RAs together. So we went to school together, we worked together. And when he found out that I didn't get into medical school, he said, hey, I heard about this newer program. It's the MSA program. They've only had a couple, like 2 classes. I know you want to do anesthesia. Why don't you look into it? And so I looked into it. I shadowed a couple physicians. I think one of the docs I shadowed was in a pain clinic, and the other one worked at Children's Mercy South that my dad had known, or one of my dad's friends connected me with him and decided, wow, this is great. I think I want to do this. And then the rest is history. And Alex and I ended up being classmates. So we go way back.
Yeah.
Long time.
Oh my gosh. I didn't know that little backstory. I love that.
Yeah.
It's interesting always to hear how people heard about the AA program or the MSA program because, it's like this hidden little gem. And I do want to explore just a little bit because your story of not getting into medical school and then finding the MSA program almost as a happenstance after that, I think that is a really resonant story. I think a lot of people have a similar story to that. And I would just love for you to dive into the decision of knowing for sure you don't want to be a doctor, or maybe you didn't quite know you didn't want to be a doctor, but hey, this seems more aligned. Like, talk us through that decision and how that came to be what felt right for you.
Yeah. I did graduate undergraduate in 3 years instead of 4. I think with the skills that my mom instilled in me and the drive, I was able to work hard and save a bunch of money and graduated in 3 years. So I was a very average candidate. I had a good GPA. I think it was 3.8 or something, and a very average MCAT score. And I took the MCAT at a time when the scoring system was different. So I got a 25, which is like very middle to low average. I had a year less of volunteering experience, shadowing experience, and I was a very average candidate. And so I had asked someone that I knew, hey, will you take a look at my application and see what would make me a better candidate if I waited a year? And they said, you got to have a better MCAT score, and you've got to hit the volunteering and the extracurriculars to really stand out. And that was so daunting and overwhelming for me. I probably could have done it, but just the thought of that was very, very overwhelming. And I'm the type of personality that is like, okay, let's go. Let's get it done now. But at the time, that just felt like, so unreachable to me. And I think I could have done it. I don't know that it even would have been a year later. I think it would have been even later than a year. So when Alex had told me about the MSA program, I jumped at it. Not just because, I can get this track done quickly and move on with my life, but because it was already in a field that I knew I wanted to go into, or that was at the very least very interesting to me. and it just felt more manageable to me at the time. Does that make sense?
Totally. Totally. I appreciate you being vulnerable about that because I don't think it's a clear-cut decision. I don't think it's, oh, I for sure with all my heart want to go to CAA school and I've known it forever. I mean, that's fewer people's story. A lot of people have the story of, I thought I was going to do this other thing. Maybe it didn't work out for a variety of reasons. And now I found this MSA program that seems to fit into everything I want and more in a faster time frame with less debt. I mean, there's so many good things about being a CAA that once you find it, it is hard to justify, going through all of that possibly pain and delay and really, really hard work just to meet some arbitrary standards that medical school seems to throw out for the candidates, which we need people who are passionate about medicine to go into medical school. So we need both. But I just think it's really vulnerable of you and honest of you to share what that felt like. And yeah, I have a similar story myself. So I appreciate that.
Of course. Can I add something?
Yeah, go ahead.
I think also the financial commitment was so much less daunting. I mean, I'm sure everybody's heard of that article, The $1 Million Mistake. Not that, medicine is a mistake or that medical school is a mistake for everybody. But I mean, a lot of, especially anesthesia providers and just physicians that I know come out of medical school with $500,000 in debt. And that is just not what I envisioned for myself. I mean, I did come out of school with some student loan debt, but I've always had a really big heart and wanted to do big things. And unfortunately, sometimes in this world, doing big things takes big money. So I've always known like, hey, I'm supposed to have money so I can be generous with it. And so that I can give to other people and so that I can be comfortable and I can give my future family a comfortable life. And so the idea of only having, X amount of student loan debt as opposed to $500,000 was really attractive.
Do you mind sharing what you came out of undergraduate and graduate, maybe combined student loan debt? I just think that's really expansive to hear a real number versus the $500,000 for medical school.
So I came out of undergrad with 0 student loan debt. Thank you, Dad. Yes, thank you. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Dad. And thank you, scholarships. And thank you, Mom, for encouraging me to apply for said scholarships for hours and hours on weekends, etc. I did come out of the MSA program with about $150,000 in student loan debt. And I was on the higher end. I think I took out almost the maximum every semester and every year because I was already worried about doing well and exceeding my own expectations. So I did not want to have to worry about money. It was one less thing for me to worry about by taking out the maximum. And now I think it's probably not the smartest decision young Maggie ever made because it ended up in a little bit more interest, but I still would not change the decision. And now I have that experience that I can go tell my daughter someday, like, hey, here's what happened with me. Here's how we can kind of be smarter about that decision. Yeah.
And 150 is totally, I mean, the difference between 150 and 500 is staggering, especially knowing the salary that most CAAs make. I mean, it's just feasible to pay back $150,000 in a reasonable amount of time, 10 years or 15 years, it's doable. And so I think that is a huge perk of the CAA program. Yeah, I completely agree. And I did the same thing, taking out the maximum. All right. I would love to hear just a little, behind the scenes sneak peek of maybe your best or worst moment in CAA school. You can go either direction, maybe one of the hardest days or the best days. I just want to hear a little bit more about what CAA school was for you.
So I am and I think most people in their 30s would say this, I'm a totally different person than I was 10 years ago. I mean, I started the program 10 years ago in 2012, graduated in 2014. I'm not going to say I don't care what people think now because I certainly do, but it was so much more exaggerated back then. I was kind of a goody two shoes and I tried really hard, almost too hard. I did not connect with most people in my class until after school, which is very surprising for people to hear now because there's a group of us girls from our anesthesia class that have gone on a trip every single year. We just had our 7th annual in Sonoma, and it's wonderful.
Wow.
Yes. And so this group of girls were very close. And also my class was just pretty close in general, but I did not feel that when I was in school. It happened kind of after school. And looking back, I think that I just tried really, really hard and it was not relatable. And it came across as just, arrogant and smug. And I wouldn't say I have one day that was just awful or a day that was just great and wonderful, because there's many of both. There's days in the operating rooms where I felt like I am doing awful. Oh my gosh, this patient would have died without the instructor in here, which of course is dramatic.
Yeah.
and not truthful.
Likely not true.
We all have those days where we just go home crying from clinic, but we all have those days where we walk out and think, I rocked it. So I want to say there was many of both. Being away from home was very difficult. So I found second year to be very, very daunting. As I said earlier, I am a homebody. I like to be around family, friends, loved ones, and traveling to Wisconsin in January for my first month away as a second year, which January is also my birthday month, which doesn't mean anything to me now, because once you hit, 21, there's no fun birthdays, not really. But I remember that being very difficult, having to leave. But, my mom said this to me one time and it didn't really hit me or make sense to me until, especially since I've had my little girl. The days are long, but the years are short.
Yes.
And I feel like that statement applies now looking back to my experience, especially as a junior and senior student that's in the traveling didactic phase of the program. I remember thinking, oh my gosh, 12 months away, it's so long. But then I look back and, oh, that month was fast. And oh, that month was fast too. And, we have to be comfortable doing uncomfortable things just as people. Sure. That's the only way we grow. And I think it just goes along well with the higher level of expectations for a graduate program. Does that make sense?
Total sense. You've mentioned your daughter twice now. So I want to just hear selfishly, maybe for all the other parents who are listening, what becoming a parent has done to your career goals, or what it means to be a CAA for you, or what the CAA profession, like how you're using it in your life to provide you with the life you want now that you guys are a family of 3.
Yeah. So when I had my baby, and her name is Murphy, I just like to share that because I just love her so much. She was born in December of 21. And since having her, I've noticed that I feel things on a much deeper level in the hospital. So the 30-year-old that just got diagnosed with breast cancer and is having a mastectomy, or the 28-year-old that was in a motorcycle wreck and is now coming for an organ procurement. Like the thought of something like that happening to me through no fault of my own, and then having to leave this legacy behind or not be here for her when she needs me or for her big life events is very difficult. I will also say that the late days are a little bit harder because, as we know, surgery and anesthesia aren't always predictable. You can't just clock out right at 3 or right at 5. So the late days do get difficult because sometimes I miss bedtime. And then, spending nights away from her is always difficult when I'm on call. But it makes me appreciate the early days, the noon days, the 1 o'clock days where I can come home and play with her for hours instead of just 20 minutes before I have to put her to bed. So I feel like I'm more grateful for the time I do get, and I want to maximize it. Totally. I've found myself, especially with a baby, putting my phone away at home, which I never used to do before, because number one, I don't want to miss anything. I want to be with her. I want to play with her. I want to experience life with her as she grows and learns. And I also don't want her to just see me staring at the phone, because I want her to know that she's important to me and that I'm here for her and not just staring at a screen. My husband and I both try to be very mindful about that.
How has having Murphy changed your relationship as a clinical instructor? I'm just curious. I had my own sort of personal shift there. Do you feel like that's impacted how you are? Because you teach first and second years, correct?
First, second, and third, yes.
First, second, and third. Okay. And all coming usually from the UMKC MSA program, or do you guys have outside schools coming to your hospital?
We have mostly UMKC. There have been a few over the last several years that we've taken from outside places, usually students that want to work in Kansas City that are interested in us as an employer. So occasionally we will take outside students.
Gotcha. How has having Murphy then impacted you, or have you not really noticed a change in the way you teach?
My patience has definitely grown. I still am not the most patient. Thank God for my wonderful husband, who is the most steady patient man on earth. We balance each other out perfectly. But I have noticed that my patience just in general, when dealing with her or the unknown or a messy house or what have you, my tolerance level for that has gotten much higher. And I feel like I'm more patient with my students. I think on some days, and also depending on the student, they might not agree, but I have noticed I'm a little more patient. I try to be a very hands-off instructor. I want them to learn by doing. And that's also something I'm learning myself parallel with Murphy, especially as we've started to introduce new foods. This is just an example, letting her feed herself makes a huge mess. It makes a way bigger mess. And sometimes that can be hard. But I don't see my teaching drastically changing, except for just me being more patient. And of course, I view all my students as kids, even though some of them are older than I am.
Yeah. Yes. Agree. I know. So I still view myself as a young, I don't know what even age I view myself, but it's certainly not the 38-year-old with 3 kids mom sort of version that I actually truly am.
I feel perpetually 24, I think.
Yeah, that's about maybe what I am. Talk to us a little bit about work-life balance and what that means to you. Are you looking for it? What changes have you made? Where are you at on that, continuum of work-life balance?
This is a great segue question. As you mentioned earlier, I just accepted a new part-time position at the UMKC MSA program as the Director of Clinical Education for the program. And yay! I'm very, very excited about it. I've always wanted to be in education. I mean, I was asking from week 1 of graduation, hey, can I teach? When can I come in? Can I give a lecture? Do you have any openings? I would say right now, the work-life balance isn't terrible. Honestly, I'm really happy at St. Luke's. There are some late days and we are short, as is everyone. But I'm pretty happy, unless you catch me on one of those weeks where I'm working 10-hour shifts and miss bedtime a couple times. Yes. But that happens to all of us. I thrive on structure. And so I think that having a set schedule, even writing down or saying, this is when I'm going to work out at this time and treating it like an actual appointment. That's important for me. And that's just an example. I think my work-life balance will it will look different. And I think it will get a little bit better taking this part-time job. So the way my schedule will look is in mid-October, I'm going to be part-time at St. Luke's and part-time at the school. So I'll be at St. Luke's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and at the school Thursday, Friday. And let me tell you, I am really looking forward to seeing Murphy in the mornings on Thursdays and Fridays. She gets up about 6:30 and usually I'm gone by then. And just having a little bit more predictability in terms of I don't have to be at the mercy of the surgery schedule. I know that as long as I get my work done, I can leave between 4 and 5 and it's all good. And I think that being in education comes with its own stress factor. But it's just a different kind of stress. Every job has its own stressors, but being in the clinic is different than being at school in terms of stresses and what that looks like. And having a shift and a difference halfway through the week, I think it will engage my brain in different ways. And honestly, I think the beginning, because this is a new structure in leadership in terms of instead of a program director and assistant program director, now we will have a program director and 3 ancillary directors. And because it looks different, I think there will be growing pains. But after a couple years, once we get into the hang of who's teaching what and what this looks like, and we've revamped this curriculum, and once we lay the foundation there, I think it's going to even get better.
I am so excited for the school, for getting you and having you on. I remember you as a student. I know you as a person, and I just think you're just a huge value asset to relating to the students coming in. Are you okay?
Oh, thank you so
I
much.
thought you
I'm
choked
so
on your
kind.
coffee.
No, I'm like touched that you said that. I'm good.
I thought you like drank hot coffee. But yeah, you're just a huge value asset to the school, to the students, to the program. I'm excited to get to work with you a little bit and, in this different capacity through the school. And I'm really excited about the future of our UMKC MSA program. And I'm just really proud that we got you on, and I'm just excited about the future. So I look forward to hearing more about how it develops for you. And I just wanted to thank you so much for taking the time to have this conversation with me. We could go on and on, I know, because we're kind of similar people and we like chatting about these things. But I did want to bring us to a close and just hear maybe what you would tell your younger self, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, about where you are now and what it took to get there. Anyone who's listening and maybe is thinking about CAA school or thinking about a career in medicine, do you have any advice or, what you would tell your younger self?
That's a great question. And I get asked that a lot, actually, by
Really?
students and potential students. I would say, and especially someone with my personality, and this might not be true for everybody, but this is also just a good reminder for anyone, no matter what the personality is live in the present. When I was younger, I thought, when I'm done with college, my life will start. When I'm done with grad school, my life will begin. When I get engaged, when I get married, when I have a kid, and I think I spent most of my 20s being confused about why I didn't have the I've arrived feeling. And you never really arrive. We're all growing, we're all having experiences. So the only thing left is to just take the moment that you're in, appreciate it or not. That's okay too sometimes. And this is your life. Your life will not start when X, Y, and Z happens. And don't look for this aha feeling, because you probably won't ever get it. That's just not reality. And that's not bad. Just to remember that your life is. Your life is. Like, that is a sentence to me. Your life is.
Words of wisdom, for sure. That is a 30-year-old, mid-30s discovery right there.
Yes,
I'm walking that path myself. Maggie, this was an awesome conversation. I think that there are possibly going to be people out there like, oh man, I have another question. I want to ask more, or I'm interested in the UMKC MSA program. Are you open to having, people contact you? And if so, what would be the best way to shoot you a question or, to get your advice on something?
Absolutely. Anybody can contact me at any time. I'd be happy to answer any emails. You have my email address. Feel free to post that. And I look forward to hearing from people.
Awesome. Maggie, it was really, really great to talk to you. We had fun. We're going to edit out all of the laughter and the coffee drinking and everything that we were doing between discussions. But I can't wait to share this with the community. And I really think it's going to help a lot of people who are navigating sort of the mid-career change and wanting something a little bit different. And it really highlights how our CAA profession can be molded and manipulated to serve us and to, create this life by design. So I really appreciate everything you shared. And I will talk soon.
Great. Thanks, Mary.
Bye.
Bye.
I hope you enjoyed this process interview with Maggie Munn. We certainly did. And I would like us all now to just take a moment to take 2 collective deep breaths as we transition out of this episode. I know it seems silly, but even just 2 breaths can activate your parasympathetic system enough to create a moment of calm and rest, and you deserve to feel good. So together, let's inhale. Hold it at the top for 2 seconds. And let out a big, deep exhale. One more breath together. Hold. And exhale. I hope you have a more easeful, restful mind going into your next thing. Maggie has allowed me to share her email in the show notes, so if you have any follow-up questions or just want to show her some appreciation, you can find her information there. These episodes are truly at the heart of this podcast. They are so valuable to your personal understanding of what a CAA can be and do, and also just to our collective understanding of what's possible for us as a community. So if you or another CAA you know is interested in being on this podcast and creating the change we all wish to see in our profession, you can find the process episode submission form in the show notes. It is a few easy, simple questions to start the ball rolling, and then you and I will talk and see what we can do together. I appreciate all of you who are listening. If you have a moment to rate and review the podcast on Apple or Spotify, I would be hugely grateful. Those reviews are important because they tell other like-minded people about what we are doing over here and why you like it. So please take a moment, if you have it, to leave a rating and review. I will be back in 2 weeks with another episode of 5-ish Minutes of Mindfulness for the busy CAA. Until then, remember that you deserve to feel good behind the drape. Talk soon.
Okay. Yay!
Yay!
That was fun.
I know. I loved that.
I
It's
know.
a little weird. It's a little weird at first. You're not lying.
Yes.
And then
I
you're
know.
like, what am I doing with my face?
Uh-huh.
And it's like, oh, it doesn't matter. And then I
Yes.
find myself doing gestures. I'm
Uh-huh.
like, wait, that doesn't matter either.
Uh-huh. Yeah, totally.